Each and every Wednesday at sportsmemo.com, you will get a 33% discount on everything you fit into your cart using coupon code CART33 when checking out. Whether it's a daily package, a one-day all-access, a 3, 7, or 30-day package, a full season of sports of your choice, or a full 12-month from your favorite handicapper, you will save 33% using coupon code CART33 on Fill Your Cart Wednesday. You can fill your cart as many times as you want each and every Wednesday. And even better, coupon code CART33 never changes and will become active each week at 12:01 and last until the clock strikes midnight.
Welcome, everyone. I am John Ryan, and you are watching the NBA Triple Double Show that's powered by SportsMemo TV and presented to you by the Predictive Playbook platform on YouTube. And as always, on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I have Ronald Cabang in the house. He and I are running pretty darn hot in the NBA. I don't know where we're ranked this morning, Ronald, on the standings, but I'm willing to bet we're certainly in the top 5 on a 7-day and 30-day horizon. I know I'm personally on a 21-10 run, and I'll say this real quick. I have a 10-unit play going tonight. It's only my second one. The first one was back on March 12th, and it won easily. It was an under with involving Golden State. And I encourage you to get this one, too, because it comes with a system that is 24-1 against the spread over the last 10 seasons. That doesn't mean it can't be 24-2 tonight, but I like this game quite a bit. Welcome to the show, Ronald. We're going to get started right away here. And with this slide, we're going to go back here. And now we have the NBA playoff scenarios. And what I wanted to focus, Ronald, on was the Eastern Conference with 4 teams all within 1.5 games of each other, as you can see in the standings. I still maintain that no one of that list that is in the middle of the page that is Eastern Conference, like Miami, Philly, Chicago, Boston, Toronto, Milwaukee, want to take on that number 8 seed that is BKN, which is the Brooklyn Nets. So it's interesting how this is going to play out. I still think that the top 4 teams that are all vying for that top seed and the number 2 seed, I don't think they really worry about having to play the Nets. The key is to get as many home court advantage situations as possible, despite the fact that the home court advantage really hasn't been applicable in the NBA playoffs, and maybe this year it will be since we're now completely out of the COVID-19 issues. But as you can see, Miami is the top seed. We'll be talking about that game today, Miami at Boston. That's a huge showdown. 2 days ago, Boston was the number 1 seed. They lost 1 game to the Toronto Raptors. They didn't play Brown or Tatum, as you know, Ronald. Yeah. They lost, barely lost, actually. But they dropped all the way down to the 4 seed. Now, with the mix of games yesterday, now they're up to the 3 seed. But this is going to be a 7-game sprint to the finish for sure. So let's get to the first game that we're going to talk about, and that is the Dallas Mavericks. They are coming off a home win. It was a laugher last night. I'm not going to even say who they played, but it was a laugher, and you can figure out for yourself who they played. So they're taking on the Cleveland Cavaliers, which, were the darlings in the beginning of the season. They were just hammering the books and winning against the spread straight up. But now they're only 9 games over 500. Now they're in the 7th position in the Eastern Conference, and that's a play-in tournament. The Dallas Mavericks now are 4th in the West, and they look good. They actually look quite good, and I think they're going to be a contender for that Western Conference crown down the road. But in this game, Ronald, what do you see as a betting opportunity for this inter-conference matchup?
Yeah, for this spot here, I'm leaning towards the Mavs and the under. I know in current form, Mavs are 6th in the league in defensive rating last 5 games, and the Cavs are 22nd in the league in offensive rating during that same time frame, and they're both bottom 10 in pace the last 5 games as well. So those both kind of lean towards the under here, and also, if we're looking at team total type stuff too, the Cavs under might be a good look as well. I know this is a bad spot schedule-wise for the Mavs, but the Cavs will be without their twin towers, Mobley and Allen. And the last time both of them were out of a game together was in December. So they're not used to this type of roster that they're going to have in play tonight. They're 1-3 straight up and against the spread when they're both out of the lineup. So that's another thing to look at into this game as far as maybe leaning towards the Mavs here. Schedule, as I mentioned, it's a bad spot for the Mavs. Second game of back-to-back home to road. First game of a 4-game road trip. Third game in 4 nights. That list goes on, and that's probably why the line is a lot shorter than it is. But trend-wise, the Mavs are 15-3 against the spread in revenge games here, including 7-1 against the spread, avenging a double-digit loss. And the average margin in those games is plus 6.3. So you can see there's a little bit of value there if we take the Mavs in this revenge spot here. And the Cavs have failed to cover in 4 straight home games as well. So there's things here that I'm looking at that's pointing me towards the Mavs and under. I have not placed a bet on this game yet, but those would be the 2 looks that I have in this game.
I love the breakdown, Ronald. I too am leaning towards the under. I know that Dallas is on back-to-back nights, and when they were a home favorite and then having to play on the road in the next game on back-to-backs, they under hits about 65% of the time over the last 3 seasons when it involves the Mavericks. And Dallas is actually 24-11 when playing against a team with a winning record this season, and they are also 24-12 and 2 pushes this season when facing a team that is allowing 108 or fewer points per game, which the Cavaliers are. So that's our initial game there. Let's move on to the next one, and that is going to be the right here, Miami Heat taking on the Boston Celtics. And as I said earlier in the show when we started out, Ronald, this is a marquee matchup. This is a big-time game for both of them. As we know, Miami's the number 1 seed. With a win by Boston, they can switch spots. I mean, that's how it's 4 teams within 1.5 games. And it's just great. It's great drama, great entertainment. I'm going to be definitely watching this game. But as you can see here by the stats, it kind of looks like all the arrows are pointing towards Boston, but I don't think we can rule Miami out in this situation either. They are number 1 in 3-point field goal percentage, which in the modern era of the NBA is a very good statistic to have in your corner. Tell us where you're going to put your money on this game.
Yeah, today in this game, obviously it's a huge game between first and third in the East, only 1 game between them. So, like you mentioned, if the Heat take this one, they could switch. The Celtics win this one, they could switch spots. Current form, even off a loss, the Celtics have been doing a lot better than the Heat. Celtics are number 1 in offensive rating in the last 5 games by a good margin. They're also first in effective field goal percentage and true shooting percentage. While the Heat are struggling offensively, 20th in offensive rating their last 5 games, and it has to do mostly with the carelessness with the ball. They're dead last in turnover percentage, which is pretty hard to come into this game knowing that you're playing one of the top defensive teams in the league. The Celtics have won and covered last 2 matchups against the Heat here. They held the Heat to 78 and 92 respectively in those first 2 matchups. I do think that there's going to be a little bit of bounce back on the Heat side. Off of those two lackluster performances against the Celtics. They're also 11-4 to the over following a previous matchup loss. So they do step it up a little bit offensively, typically in those situations. They're averaging 109 per game and allowing 108 in those 15 game sample size. So there's a 1 point gap there, and then the total of 217, which is above the total that we have tonight. So I think, to me, the total is a little bit lower than what it should be. I know both of these teams are are known for their defense and their slow pace and things like that, but I think that in this situation and what this game means to both teams, I think the offenses are going to show out and go above this total of what is it, 214? What is the total today?
It's 214.5. It's
214.5.
213.5.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I think that's what people are seeing is the statistics are pointing towards the under, but I feel like the situation here is pointing towards the over. That would probably be the way that I lean in this one.
Yeah, and I think there's some player props here we can talk about too. Because I have a lead on the over. I do think that there's tremendous value at 213.5 to bet the over. And I must say, I tweeted this last night, and I love in-game betting. So the Sixers are hosting Milwaukee last night. Milwaukee goes on a 11-0 run, just like I've been preaching. and it goes to a timeout. And of course, there's commercials. So I was able to pick up the Sixers at plus 3.5, and a couple of my followers were saying they got 6.5. But that's an example where you let these betting flows come to you. You know, you let the game tell you what's going on. And fortunately, the Sixers only lost by 2. I needed all 3.5 of those points. At one point, the Sixers were up double digits, which you could have bet the Milwaukee Bucks then, and created, in hindsight, a perfect middle. You would have won both of them. I think in this game, Ronald, I definitely, with the total, if it does start out sluggish and you get anything south of 210 points, I think you jump on it. What I use is an average of less than 4 points per minute. If that goes on for 3 minutes during the first quarter, the second quarter, that's where I start leaning on the over. And this game could start out like they're playing in the mud because of the importance of the situation. So I would, if you like the over, I would do 50% pre-flop and then look to add at anything south of 210 points. And that's my lean for this game. In terms of the prop bets, I mentioned that. So Jason Tatum, I think, is probably a decent one on FanDuel, 32.5 points and assists, minus 106. And whenever you get less than minus 110, VIG, as you know, it's a good price. And I think Jason Tatum probably plays pretty darn well tonight. And then with the Miami side, points and assists, they actually are not listed yet, but I can update that later in the day. Let's move on to the last game, and that last game is another, kind of a big time game here with the Suns and the Warriors, and we'll put the slide right to that one. So now we have the best record team. I still say the Suns are head and shoulders above everybody else. They just seem like they can almost toy with a team, much like some of those championship games from the Miami Heat days. They just kind of like, they're just there, they're just kind of playing around. Then all of a sudden, wham, and there's a 10-point lead in a blink of an eye. So Golden State here, I don't know if Klay Thompson is playing, but I'm sure you can inform us on that. Just tell us where you think the bet is for this matchup, because I'm sure there's got to be at least one.
Yeah, so my understanding is Klay, Green, and Porter will play after they rested their last game. This is a third game in 4 nights, but it's not a back-to-back. They lost 6 of the last 7 games the Warriors have, so their current form is not that great. And obviously, you mentioned the Suns. They're being one of the top teams in the league, if not the top team at this point. They're on an 8-game win streak. They're rested. They're coming off 10-point wins, double-digit wins over the Nuggets and the Sixers. But they do have the Grizzlies up next. But to me, I think the key here is motivation, right? The Suns have locked in that first spot in the West. And the Warriors, they're actually in a battle for 3rd through 7th. I mean, I think there's like a 1 or 2 game gap or something like that, or between 3rd and 5th, and then 3rd and 7th is like a 4-game gap. So it depends on motivation here. I think the Warriors should be the more motivated team here. Suns, whether they lose out the rest of the season, they're still going to be locked in for that first spot. At current form, we're looking at the Suns second in offensive rating, while the Warriors are 25th. When it comes to true shooting percentage, the Suns are second and the Warriors are 26th. So offensively, obviously they're not. It's tough to see the Warriors come out here and go crazy offensively. So I think the way that they can win this game is to play defense, and that's where I'm looking towards is the under here. Suns are 13-3 to the under with at least 2 days rest, averaging just over 111 and allowing just over 100 per game in those situations. So you can see there's like a huge, like I think it's like 10 or 11 point gap from the total currently. And the Warriors, they're two. Where's the Warriors? They're 10-5 to the under going from road to home. So in travel situations here, they tend to struggle. But mainly the spot here, I think towards the end of the season, we look less at the averages and the numbers and more towards what is the motivation, what is the current travel situation, the rest, the spot here. And I think to me, the Warriors need this game a little bit more than the Suns. So I feel like if they know that they're struggling offensively, they're going to have to step it up defensively. And with Green and Porter coming back, I think that helps obviously on the defensive side of the ball. So to me, I'm looking towards the under in this situation.
Yeah, it's interesting because for one of the few times, Ronald, I'm kind of on the other side. This is just a lean, but this is what I call the betting angle of the day. Suns Warriors
Hmm.
bet over with a total of 220 or more points after game number 41, which obviously is the second half of the season. Team is averaging 108 to 114 points per game. The team has allowed 115 or more points in the last two games. We're
Hmm.
obviously talking about the Suns there, and the Golden State Warriors are allowing 104 to 108 points per game because they're a pretty darn good defensive team.
Hmm.
That has gone 64-34 for 65%. That only gives me a lean here, so I'm not saying I'm against you here. But we
It's
can
all good.
decide all this stuff right now with our final segment, which is the best bet of the show.
Yeah,
And I'll let you take it away first and give out your best bet or best bets.
sure. So let me look over my notes here. So we had I think the Mavs game under would probably be my best look here. I think a lot of the numbers and the spot situation here points towards the under. I do lean towards the Mavs in that game as well, but I think that the under here is a good look. I think the Cavs are struggling offensively. The Mavs are continuing to play strong defense, both playing at a slow pace. So to me, the best bet of the day out of the three games that we talked is probably these Mavs Cavs under.
And I definitely agree. That was going to be my best bet as well as the under in the Mavs Cleveland Cavaliers matchup, and that's supported by the back-to-back that Dallas is enduring. So they were at home yesterday. They're away now, and
Mhm.
I believe it's 65%. And I can provide a comment in the YouTube channel section with the details of that trend spanning the last 3 years. But it definitely favors the under and makes complete sense to me.
Mhm.
So that brings us to the end of our show. Ronald, thank you for your time as always. We're going to be back with Ronald on Friday for another edition of the NBA Triple Double. We'll have myself doing solo tomorrow, which I don't mind. It's kind of fun. I get to talk to myself. But it's always more fun with you, Ronald. I mean, there's no doubt. And I think everybody in the audience would agree with that. So until then, remember two things simply: bet with your head, never over it, and may all the wins be yours.